Friday, June 14, 2019, for 42 p.m. Eastern Time, Buffalo Road, Ashe County, North Carolina. A landline call hits 911, then dies. Deputies head for a white farmhouse tucked above West Jefferson. The Ridley family plays bluegrass, lives by rules, and keeps to themselves. Hours earlier, neighbors heard sharp blasts between 1:20 and 2:50 p.m. What happened to Noah Ridley inside that house? For years later, a clinical review will reopen how we read those minutes. It will not change the bodies. It will change the questions. One call suggests someone woke up far too late. Paul Ridley left the property at 5:30 a.m. He has done that for years. He drives a box truck for a hardware wholesaler in Wilkesboro. He clocks in by 6:20 a.m. His time card, gas receipt, and a route manager confirm it. At home, Martha Ridley kept the day on rails. She ran a strict schedule for meals, chores, and practice. The family played as the Ridley String Band on church lawns and county fair stages. For adult sons, all musicians. Phone stayed off during work blocks. Television was barely used. Music was filtered. Rules were posted on a corkboard in the kitchen. The son split duties. Evan, 28, worked construction in Boone. Blake, 25, apprenticed at a small engine shop in Fleetwood. Noah, 23, handled sound checks and rhythm parts. Ryan, 19, carried the snare and harmony. On Thursday, June 13th, they rehearsed until just after 9. A neighbor across the ridge heard upright bass and a fiddle run. He logged the time in a hunting app he uses as a field diary. He will later show the entry to a deputy. On Friday, the morning looked normal. Table cleared by 7:30 a.m. A kettle and 2 mugs on the counter. A metronome on the piano bench. Martha reviewed a list she had written in pencil: feed chickens, men's strap, confirm Todd Fair set list. Her handwriting is even and sharp. Investigators will photograph it where it was found. At 1:12 p.m., a doorbell camera across Buffalo Road catches a distant truck engine and a quick shutdown. The image is too wide. The audio is clear enough to timestamp a vehicle somewhere on the grade. It does not show the Ridley driveway. It does not show a plate or a person. Between 1:20 and 2:50 p.m., 2 households report hearing a cluster of loud cracks. One describes 6. Another says maybe 10. No one calls right then. Out here, folks still assume it is target practice. The landline call at 4:42 p.m. is short. It connects and drops in seconds. The dispatcher calls back. No answer. Ashe County deputies roll. They pull into the gravel turnaround at the end of the long drive. The front door is not latched. They announce at the threshold and wait. There is no reply. A single shot sounds from inside. They radio it in, hold position, and stack on entry when backup arrives. The scene is tight and quiet. In the living room, Noah lies on his side near an area rug, bleeding from a head wound. He is breathing, slow and shallow. A 20-gauge shotgun rests a few feet away. On the back hall floor, Ryan is down with no pulse. He is near the door that leads to the mudroom and the rear porch. Upstairs, in the bathroom, Martha is on the tile beside a toppled laundry basket. She does not respond to pain stimuli. Deputies clear room by room, confirm no third person present, and secure the weapon. EMS loads Noah by 5:14 p.m. He leaves for Wilkes Medical first, then a helicopter lift to Winston-Salem. A deputy rides in the front seat. On scene, investigators tag shell wads, a plastic hull, and trace on the banister. They bag a cotton shirt with soot at the cuff. They dust the shotgun and recover clear prints on the stock. Multiple prints will belong to members of the household. The gun is a home firearm. Everyone has handled it for chores with pests. Paul is called en route from Wilkesboro and meets deputies at the edge of the roadblock. He answers basic questions through stunned silence. Evan arrives next, then Blake. Each gives a location timeline, texts, and names of supervisors. Their phones place them where they say they were. None of the three men have visible injuries. None of their clothes test positive for recent gunshot residue at that hour. Inside, nothing looks ransacked. The windows are intact. The lock latches hold. The kitchen corkboard still carries the week's grid, chores, practice times, and a column labeled privileges. The bottom line reads, music is work. Work is worship. The sheriff's office takes it down and bags it with gloves. The clock that matters now is the one no one can see. Who fired at whom, and when, and in what order? If the first blasts happened in early afternoon, why did 911 ring at 4:42 p.m.? Did someone lose consciousness and return? Did someone try once and fail? There is no footprint that does not belong. There is no pry mark on a door. There is a family that lived by routine and a day that did not. One phrase will follow this case from the start, a call, then a single shot as help arrived. Someone dialed 911, but who, and why only once? Deputies take the drive by 5:05 p.m. The front door stands ajar. A breeze moves the curtain above a cold air return. They call out. No one answers. They enter, clear left, then right. The 20-gauge lies near the living room rug, muzzle away, action closed. A single plastic hull sits under the console table. Another hull is wedged near the back hall baseboard. A third wad fragment rests on the third stair. They tag each piece with a tent marker. EMS leaves with Noah at 5:14 p.m. He is not speaking. His pulse is soft but present. A pressure dressing darkens at the edge. A deputy secures the shotgun in a hard case and notes the serial number. The weapon is a family gun, kept in a locked cabinet near the mudroom. There is no sign of prying on the cabinet door. The small padlock is unlatched and intact. A detective photographs the landline base in the kitchen at 5:22 p.m. The last outgoing call reads for 42 p.m. The duration shows 3 seconds. A callback from dispatch hit the line at 4:43 p.m. No one picked up. The handset surface takes powder well. Latent prints develop in a cluster near the talk button. Mixed profiles are expected in a home, but a thumb smear appears fresh. It will go to the lab with the base unit. 2 neighbors give statements at the roadblock. One heard 6 sharp cracks between 1:30 and 1:45 p.m. Another reports closer to 10 by 2:40 p.m. Both assume target shooting. Neither heard a vehicle in the Ridley drive. A doorbell camera across Buffalo Road captured an engine at 1:12 p.m., then silence. The angle misses the house. It is still useful for time anchors. Inside the bathroom, the floor is dry. A tipped laundry basket lies near Martha's hip. An investigator photographs faint soot on the cuff of a cotton work shirt in the hallway. The size matches Noah's build. In the back hall, Ryan is down near the threshold to the mudroom, feet toward the porch. There are no drag marks. There is no glass on the floor and no broken pane. The rear latch works. There are no pry marks on the jamb. Crime scene techs swab the shotgun's trigger, safety, and fore-end. They lift ridge detail from the stock. Prints will later match multiple family members, which is expected. The question is time, not ownership. They collect residue samples from door hardware, the banister, and the table edge. They bag the corkboard from the kitchen wall. The week's grid shows a tight schedule. Chores, practice, and a rightmost column labeled privileges. A handwritten line at the bottom reads, music is work. Work is worship. Paul arrives roadside at 5:37 p.m. He is separated from Evan and Blake for basic questioning. Each provides a timeline, names, and a phone for consent searches. Paul's employer confirms his route. The timecard logs clock in at 6:20 a.m. A warehouse camera places him at a loading dock at 2:06 p.m. Evans foreman confirms a concrete pour in Boone from 12:30 to 3:10 p.m. Blake's shop owner confirms 2 small engine repairs with timestamps and a POS receipt at 2:18 p.m. None of the 3 show recent gunshot residue on rapid screens at scene. Full lab work will follow. The kitchen counter holds 2 mugs and a kettle ring. No alcohol is present. A metronome sits on the piano bench by the window. In the living room, the coffee table carries a stack of set lists and a pencil. A yellow pad shows a title block, Todd Fair, Saturday. The bottom margin has 3 names for harmony swaps. The handwriting is consistent with Martha's earlier lists. The coroner arrives just before 6 p.m. She notes estimated time windows but withholds formal pronouncement details until transport. There is no graphic description here. The focus is sequence and time. The ballistic tech measures distances. The patterning suggests near shots for both victims. That does not tell motive. It only narrows positions. Investigators circle the 116-minute gap between the earliest reported cracks and the 4:42 p.m. call. They draw 3 working scenarios. 1. The shots happened closer to the call than the neighbors believed. 2. Someone was incapacitated, then rallied long enough to dial once. 3. A third party was present and left no obvious trace. The third option conflicts with the lack of forced entry, the clean window latches, and the uneventful camera angles. It is not ruled out. It is simply weak on facts. At 6:28 p.m., a tech recovers a partial print from the landline base. The ridge detail is strong. It is not enough to name anyone at the scene. It is enough to compare later. A second team logs the family gun cabinet. The padlock shows normal wear. The key hangs on a hook 3 feet away. Everyone in the home knew that hook. If this clear, fact-first reconstruction helps you follow the case, consider subscribing so you won't miss what the lab finds next. The next step is simple, not easy. Match residue to hands. Match timing to wounds. Match a 3-second call to a person in a room. Something in this house held for years, then failed in one long afternoon. Who tried to speak at 4:42 p.m., and why only once? Detectives begin with what the family showed the world before June 2019. The Ridley channel on YouTube carried short clips from rehearsals and county shows. The last public upload landed on March 25, 2019, just after a late snowfall. In it, Ryan jokes about the cold and points to a paper sign for an April event. He grins, elbows Noah, and talks in quick bursts. The camera tilts, corrects, and holds for 20 seconds. There is no argument on the clip. There is no sign of trouble. A local pastor confirms the band played a Sunday lawn event on April 7, 2019, at a church off Enseeth 194. He kept a volunteer roster and wrote down set times. The Ridley slot began at 3:10 p.m. and ended by 3:45 p.m. An email from the church office shows their small honorarium paid the next day. It matches a deposit in Martha's checking account on April 8. The amounts are modest. They track with other small gigs. The family's rules appear in journals and printed sheets found in the kitchen and office. Meal times at 7 a.m., 12:30 p.m., and 6 p.m. phones limited to scheduling and music tasks. Television permitted for weather and a few documentaries. Music selection screened by parents. The corkboard grid uses a token system for privileges. A privilege could be a radio hour, a borrowed truck, or an evening visit. The structure is strict, but it is documented and consistent. Neighbors on Buffalo Road describe a predictable routine. Early truck warm-ups. Afternoon instrument cases on the porch. Occasional laughter during practice breaks. They also describe distance. The family waved but did not linger. One neighbor mentions hearing a strained rehearsal the first week of June. Fiddle stops and restarts. A male voice says again twice. That detail is placed in a timeline. It is not evidence of a fight. Investigators scan finances for pressure points. They find mortgage statements up to date. Utilities paid on time. Farm supply invoices regular and small. A pickup repair in May shows new brake pads and a rotor. No revolving debt spikes. There is no policy that pays for tragedy here. Insurance files are ordinary and limited. They check medical records after subpoenas clear. Noah had a minor concussion in August 2018 from a low-speed truck slide near Deep Gap. He was treated and released. Follow-ups noted headaches for several weeks. A clinician recommended rest and limited screen time. He returned to normal activity. This matters because symptoms can linger and resurface under strain. It does not explain a gun in a hallway by itself. Band logs show a full June schedule before the weekend of the incident. The Todd Fair note stands for the Todd Summer Concert Series near Railroad Grade Road. A volunteer coordinator confirms a telephone call with Martha on June 10th. The set list included 4 instrumentals and 1 gospel standard. She remembers Martha's voice as calm and businesslike. Someone in the circle tells investigators that Noah left a gathering early in the first week of June. It was a potluck and tune circle at a friend's barn east of West Jefferson. The host's wife kept a photo timestamped 8:11 p.m. Noah is in the frame, holding a guitar, half turned to the door. He told 2 people he did not feel well. He left before cleanup. The drive to Buffalo Road is 20 minutes without traffic. That detail is small. It adds to a pattern of strain in early June. Detectives also note small points of friction from notebooks. A pencil mark beside phone blocks shows recent edits. There are erasures around practice length and Thursday chores. The handwriting is Martha's. It suggests active management in the week before the event. It does not prove a dispute. It proves attention. They map the family schedule for June 13th. Work shifts for Paul, Evan, and Blake are confirmed again. Rehearsal ran until a little after 9 p.m. A neighbor across the ridge recorded the time in a hunting app he uses as a log. He showed the deputy the entry on his phone. The band packed by 9:20 p.m. The house went quiet before 10. On June 14th, the morning steps align with the written routine. Chores were checked off. A kettle ring marks the counter. 2 mugs sit by the sink. The metronome is on the piano bench. The corkboard still carries the week's plan. Between 1:20 and 2:50 p.m., there are reports of sharp cracks somewhere on the ridge. No one calls then. At 4:42 p.m., the landline hits 911 and drops. By 5:14 p.m., Noah is in an ambulance. A case's center often hides in ordinary days. The ordinary here is recorded, dated, and neat. It leaves a final question for the people who knew that rhythm best. What changed on that Friday after lunch, and why then? The lab work starts with the shotgun. Technicians document the serial number and condition. The action cycles cleanly. The safety moves without grit. A test fire establishes patterning at set distances. Wads and hulls from the living room, stairwell, and back hall are measured and labeled. Their plastic marks match the test barrel. There is no sign of a second gun. Residue kits from the scene arrive sealed. Swabs from the trigger, safety, and fore-end carry burnt primer particles. A clear ridge pattern on the stock matches one of Noah's prints. That is expected in a home with shared tools. The question is when those prints were laid down. Time cannot be dated on a fingerprint. Time can be implied from soot, sweat, and transfer. GSR screens run on Paul, Evan, and Blake at the staging area show negative on rapid tests. Full lab analysis later confirms trace consistent with environmental contact only. None of the 3 handled a recently fired weapon that afternoon. Noah's shirt cuff tells a different story. The right cuff carries soot at the edge seam and micron-sized primer residues. The pattern shows a close, directional deposit. The shirt is bagged with a staple seal tag and logged. The landline handset yields a partial thumb left on the talk button. The ridge detail is strong. It compares to Noah. That does not prove he completed the call. It places his thumb on the button last. The base unit shows a 3-second outgoing call at 4:42 p.m. The phone company confirms the timestamp to the second. A dispatcher callback at 4:43 p.m. rings and goes unanswered. Ballistics put the shots at near range for both victims. Pattern density suggests a small interior distance. The stair fragment indicates a muzzle angled up from the first landing. A bead of plastic on the third step aligns with that path. In the bathroom, tile spool is shallow and contained. Investigators avoid graphic description. They fix position and direction. In the back hall, Ryan's orientation is toward the porch door. The latch is intact. There is no splintered wood at the strike plate. The house shows no forced entry. Windows secure from inside. Screens undisturbed. The mudroom door latch works and shows normal wear. The gun cabinet sits 3 steps from that door. The small padlock opens with a key that hangs on a hook beside it. Family members state everyone knew the location. The lock is not defeated. It is simply unlatched. Medical timelines are narrow without showing detail. Both victims likely died within minutes after being shot. No alcohol is detected in blood screens. No illicit drugs are present. Noah's hospital blood draw later shows prescribed analgesic at a low level. He received no sedative before his collapse. EMS notes slow, shallow breathing on load. A deputy logs the time, 5:14 p.m. Detectives work the 116-minute gap again. They chart 3 possibilities on a whiteboard. The first, neighbor estimates are off, and shots occurred near 4:30 p.m. The second, shots happened early afternoon, Noah was unconscious, he regained function long enough to dial once. The third, a third party left without trace. The third option continues to conflict with the locks, the windows, and the lack of foreign prints. No unknown DNA is recovered from doorknobs or the phone. A digital examiner analyzes the doorbell camera audio from across Buffalo Road. He marks the 1:12 p.m. engine sound and a brief reverend. He compares the spectrum to Paul's box truck captured at the warehouse earlier that day. The signatures do not match. The audio is too poor for a make and model. It confirms only that some engine ran nearby at 1:12 p.m. A second examiner pulls cell tower records for Evan and Blake. Their devices ping towers in Boone and Fleetwood in normal patterns. SMS and call logs align with work activity. Paul's phone remains near Wilkesboro until a call from a deputy at 5:02 p.m. The tower handoff places him driving north on US 421 toward Deep Gap. Nothing suggests a secret return to Ashe County before 4:42 p.m. Investigators recreate the interior timing. A tech sets a metronome in the living room at the tempo used on the band set list. They measure line of sight from the living room to the stairs and to the back hall. They clock walking times at a normal pace and under stress. From the living room to the bathroom takes roughly 12 seconds at a run. From the living room to the back hall takes 6. The shortest narrative that fits the evidence is stark. A family gun is accessed. 2 shots fire at near range in 2 separate parts of the house. A third shot sounds as deputies approach. A 3-second call hits 911 90 minutes earlier. The handset carries Noah's thumb. His shirt cuff carries soot. None of this speaks motive. All of it speaks sequence. There is one question the lab cannot answer. If Noah pressed the talk button at 4:42 p.m., what stopped him from pressing it twice? Noah survives the flight to Winston-Salem on June 14, 2019. Surgeons remove fragments and stabilize swelling. He loses partial vision in his left eye. A titanium plate reinforces a cranial defect. He spends 13 days in the ICU, then moves to a step-down unit. He follows commands but speaks little. His chart lists headaches, light sensitivity, and short attention. Social workers flag a need for long therapy. By July, he transfers to an inpatient rehab floor. Therapists start with orientation questions and simple tasks. He can state his name and the month. He misses the date and day of the week. He walks with support by the third week. He completes basic puzzles in short sessions. Notes show endurance improving in 10-minute blocks. Staff log irritability when overloaded. That is common after head trauma. It does not define intent on June 14th. In late August, Noah begins outpatient neuropsychology. A clinician tests memory, processing speed, and executive function. His verbal recall lags after delays. His working memory scores below expected for age. He perseverates under stress. She recommends structured routines, short instructions, and rest intervals. The plan mirrors what the family already used. That overlap will matter to the court later. Detectives monitor his care and wait for clarity. They file for competency evaluations through the fall. A judge orders a full assessment in November 2019. A forensic psychologist meets Noah twice. He is cooperative but concrete. He answers simple questions. He resists questions about June 14th. The evaluator writes that Noah is not competent to stand trial yet. He needs treatment, consistency, and time. The case slows in 2020. Hospital policies tighten during the pandemic. Legal meetings move to video. Appointments cancel when units close. Therapists improvise with home worksheets and phone check-ins. Progress notes stay cautious. Noah participates in group sessions when available. He tracks routines well. He shuts down when asked about the shootings. His attorneys do not push content. They document status and stabilize his schedule. By mid-2021, a second evaluator finds improvement. Noah orients to date and place. He names his attorneys and the judge. He explains basic court roles. He still struggles with sequencing under pressure. He avoids describing the afternoon between 1 o'clock and 5 p.m. Memory gaps exist. They may be organic. They may be defensive. The evaluator defers an opinion on sanity at the time of the offense. He suggests another year of treatment. The state asks for independent review halfway through 2022. Reports remain guarded. Noah is fit for basic participation with limits. He can read short statements aloud. He can answer yes or no with coaching. He cannot maintain detail under complex questioning. A psychiatrist notes no severe psychosis. There is no major mood disorder. There is a brain injury with deficits that wax and wane. In February 2023, the court appoints a neuropsychologist with trauma expertise. She reviews pre-incident records, including Noah's 2018 concussion near deep gap. She examines imaging and rehab notes from 2019. She runs tests across 2 long sessions in March. Her report lands in April 2023. She concludes Noah likely understood right from wrong in general terms in June 2019. She also concludes his processing speed and impulse control were impaired. She cannot say if those impairments rose to a legal defense. She lists specific deficits: slowed initiation, poor set shifting, vulnerability to overload, and fatigue. Defense counsel adjusts strategy after that report. They stop signaling a full insanity defense. They move toward a plea that recognizes harm and context. They request the court consider brain injury in charging and sentencing. The prosecution refuses to link motive to religion or house rules. They center on sequence and physical evidence. They keep the gun, the prints, the call, and the timing. Detectives revisit the notebooks in May 2023. They chart edits to the corkboard grid in late May and early June. Practice blocks lengthen by 15 minutes in pencil. Phone blocks shift later by half an hour. A line reading "No visits" appears on June 12. That is 2 days before the event. The handwriting is Martha's. It shows new control points, not a reason for murder. A church volunteer turns over a draft set list found in a hymn binder. The margins show swap harmonies next to Ryan's name. A note says Noah on rhythm only. That could be a musical decision. It could also feel like demotion. The paper sits in evidence with other minor frictions. No one writes an argument in the margins. Stories do not appear in ink. By June 2023, Noah attends court in person with a deputy and a therapist. He sits straight and answers the judge. He confirms he understands the roles in a trial. He says he can consult with counsel. He does not speak about June 14th. The judge finds him competent to proceed. The court sets a full date and orders final evaluations. The plea comes before the date arrives. In October 2023, Noah accepts responsibility in open court. The state drops 2 firearm specifications. There is no graphic testimony. The judge schedules sentencing for December. Impact statements will be written and read by counsel. The law does not ask why a family system failed. It asks who acted, what followed, and how to protect the public now. One line in the plea hearing draws every eye to Noah's hands as he folds them. He says he remembers pressing a button, and then nothing else. Sentencing takes place in Ashe County on December 12, 2023. The courtroom is small and full. Noah sits between 2 deputies. His therapist is 1 row back. He answers routine questions in a steady voice. He confirms he reviewed the plea and understands the possible term. He does not speak about June 14, 2019. His attorneys do the speaking. They ask the court to weigh documented brain injury and consistent treatment. They acknowledge 2 deaths and a house with no sign of forced entry. The state keeps to sequence and harm. The prosecutor outlines the living room, the back hall, and the upstairs bathroom. He notes residue on Noah's right cuff. He notes Noah's thumb on the talk button at 4:42 p.m. He reminds the court of the single shot as deputies approach the door. He does not argue religion. He does not speculate about motive. He insists on protection of the public and the value of the lives lost. Impact statements come next. Counsel reads Paul Ridley's letter without embellishment. Paul thanks the responders who kept his son alive that evening. He writes that Martha taught for boys to work hard and finish tasks. He writes that Ryan's harmony parts still sit on the piano in pencil. He asks for mercy and for space to heal. He writes that he forgives in the way he is able. Evan and Blake submit written statements with similar themes. They ask the court to let treatment continue in a stable environment. The judge has reviewed neuropsychology reports from March and April 2023. He cites the findings on slowed processing, set-shifting deficits, and fatigue. He notes the expert's opinion that Noah likely understood right from wrong in general terms in June 2019. He explains why those facts shape, but do not erase, accountability. He describes the standard for mens rea. He reminds the room that the plea removes the need for trial testimony on graphic details. He keeps language clinical and brief. He turns to the gap everyone has fought over. He accepts that the neighbor's estimates might be off. He accepts that Noah could have been impaired and then rallied. He rejects a third party for lack of forced entry, unknown DNA, or foreign prints. He says the record will not answer every question. It must answer enough to sentence a living man. The defense asks for concurrent terms and a long treatment plan. The state asks for consecutive time. The judge imposes 30 years to life, with 2 15-year terms to run one after the other. He credits time served. He recommends placement where traumatic brain injury care exists in the state system. He orders continued therapy and periodic neurological review. He declines to attach findings about motive beyond the agreed facts. Noah nods as the clerk reads the order. He keeps his hands folded on the table. He does not look back when he is led out. Paul remains seated for a long minute. Evan and Blake help him to his feet. They exit through a side door reserved for families. There are no statements on the courthouse steps. In January 2024, the sheriff's office releases the final evidence log. Items include the shotgun, 3 plastic hulls, 1 wad fragment, clothing, the corkboard, and the landline base. The report confirms no unknown DNA on doorknobs, windows, or the phone. It confirms no prints from non-residents. It confirms a clean set of locks and latches. It confirms a home with structure and a day that broke. The Ridley channel has no new upload after March 25, 2019. The set lists stay boxed with the hymn binder. The upright bass rests in a corner of the living room, strings down-tuned. A neighbor mows the front strip when the grass grows tall. The mailbox holds circulars and 2 county notices addressed to Paul. The house remains quiet from the road. There are arguments the case does not settle. Some see a strict system pushing a young man to a point. Others see a brain already injured and pushed by months of pressure. The court avoids both conclusions. The order reflects harm, sequence, and public safety. The strongest fact remains the phone call. Someone pressed a button at 4:42 p.m. Someone tried, and then it ended. A cold record can only do so much. It shows time, distance, residue, prints, and a line of sight. It does not show what any person felt at the top of the stairs. It does not show what happened in the minute before the call. The file leaves those spaces blank because the law cannot fill them. It can only fence them off and move forward. The small question still anchors the larger one: who tried to reach out once, and what stopped the second try?